Get ready for the next fight. What's going on, YouTube? This is D-Rec here with Argo, bringing you another Cardfight Vanguard feature match. In today's feature match, we have our locals, Vanguard Day. It's the finals over here for our Vanguard Day July. On the right, myself, piloting Overlord the End, running it back with the OG. And on the left, piloted by my buddy Chandler, is Blangdmire Nexus and all the new support out of DZBTO 8. If you guys enjoyed today's feature match, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for future content. And leave a comment down below about your thoughts on the impact of DZBTO 8 running into the middle of BSF 2025 there. I know in the TCG we still have the dog for Reziel and the rest of Keter, but in the OCG they don't for Reziel anyway. And we still have plenty of Bab Saga running around. But getting into the match today, I'll be taking the first turn, running with the grade 1 Vergia, and then passing the turn. Chandler going into his grade 1 turn there, riding up into the new, I believe that's the new grade 1 from DZBTO 8 for the Blangdmire ride chain. He's going to call that new support card there, checking top 2, and soul charging up to 1, bottom decking the rest. And he does have a Blangdmire skill with Blangdmire's Vanguard, but we won't worry about that until later in the game there. Swinging rear first, we're going to defensively check the front trigger. 18k to Chandler's 8k Vanguard swinging in right now. No offensive trigger check, and that'll be the 1 damage. Going into our grade 2 turn here. Healthy damage point to be at going into grade 2. We don't want to be too high in the getting into the mid game against Blangdmire, especially with Nexus being a bit more heft than OG Blangdmire there. We're going to call out the Burning Horn there to check for an Overlord, getting the base Overlord off that skill there. We call it to the back row there to make sure that in the event that we do whiff, we'll be able to move it up. But if we do get a hit there and we're down to no face-up counterblast, we want to make sure that we're not being damage denied going into our grade 3 turn there. I know some people still like playing the Nahalem grade 2 in the ride line there, but we like the top 7 check for the grade 2, just to be able to thin out and potentially search for any missing pieces of our combo. We're going to swing rear first, and only. Keeping him at 0 damage, again talking about damage denial. I don't believe there was too much real risk here of him getting any potential use out of counterblasts at this stage in the game. I think most of his stuff doesn't require counterblasts this early on, but in any event, just making sure that we're denying him some form or the other of resources there. He's going to get the soul charge off of that. Plus the Tiskar, it's a potential, that's a draw 2. Plus 1 off that whole combo. He's going to call out another of the wizard there. Checking top 2 for 1 to put the soul. He's going to put the order card there into the soul and then bottom deck the other. And no additional rear guards. He's going to swing with the Vanguard and a boost. No offensive check and no defensive check. Being the end of Chandler's grade 2 turn there. Going up to 6 energy and getting into our grade 3 turn now. Pitching the grade 3 searcher. We ride into the one and only Dragonic Overlord the End. Resolving the grade 2 skill on ride there. Checking top 7 for grade 2. Again, really just playing that for the capacity to search for any missing pieces we might be not having in our hand at this stage in the game. Plenty of instances where I'm playing this and I'm just missing either the Bellicosity or the base Overlord. Given all the searching that we do, we have the grade 1 that searched for a grade 3. We have Burning Horn to search for a grade 3. We have the new grade 1 that will probably be throwing into the list at some point. We're not running it right now. We use Bellicosity's skill to put the Overlord we searched for last turn into the soul to draw 2, and that's going to give us the plus 5k and no lost drive checks for our Vanguard there. Swinging in for 18, and then giving plus 5 to the Burning Horn and the Bellicosity there. First 2 checks yield no offensive trigger checks and no defensive trigger check from Chandler there. So we'll pay the cost there, get it pitching the Halb, and that's going to come back with plus 5. We're going to swing once again. Again, 18k. No additional bonuses. We didn't see the drag resonance this time around, so only a base 18 right now at the current stage in our second swing here. And he's going to no guard once again. First check crit. We want to see that there. The power is gonna go, I believe, to rear guard there. The crit's gonna go to Vanguard. Yep. Plus 10k to the Bellicosity on the left, and then no second check there. First defensive check, critical trigger, and then second check, once again, another critical trigger. Pushing his grade 2 Vanguard up to 30k. We're gonna swing in for the tie with Bellicosity, and that Burning Horn's gonna be swinging for 33 afterwards after that. He's gonna take the attack there. Checking the defensive heal, 3 triggers back to back defensively on our grade 3 turn. And that's gonna be the end of my first grade 3 turn there. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do any more than that, but we're still ahead in damage. We're down 2 to his 3. He's gonna ride into Blangdmire, base Blangdmire. And his next 3 cards off of the top 3 check from the grade 2 were more triggers. He would have had 6 triggers in a row between what he just checked and what he would have checked had he not touched his top deck at all. Absolutely insane ratio. But thankfully, because of that, he wasn't able to soul charge anything, so no additional soul for Blangdmire and no additional draw, I believe, off of the grade 2. If you do 2 or more, he gets to draw an additional card. He's going to replace the Wizard for the 15k booster. And he's going to call out, it's a promo grade 1. It's going to prevent intercepting this turn, and then when it boosts, he can put a card from the drop zone into the soul. And then in front of that, the Zamoog. That's going to be a pretty decent setup. He doesn't have any power bonuses like on a Persona ride turn, so that Zamoog, even with the skill, is only going to be swinging in for 15k on its own. And with Zamoog's skill there, he's going to see the Vade Rock and the Colossus. That trigger's going to go to the bottom of the deck and shuffle. Alright, so with that shuffle there, those 2 will go into the soul. He's going to resolve the draw off of Zamoog, and then with that, he's going to take from the soul there. He's got the Gear Colossus. That's going to go into his bind zone for that draw. Easy +2. Now he's at a pretty hefty size hand there at the moment. So it's going to come down if he wants to call out an additional board or if he wants to leave it as is. Again, that promo is a really solid tech choice in this specific instance. Otherwise, if he were to swing with the Zamoog on its own, it would just be within intercept territory. But without the intercept thing, it's going to require hand resources to guard. So he's going to swing the Zamoog there. No boost. He's gonna, if he wants to do a Zamoog skill there. Yep, so he's gonna pay the 3. That's gonna give it the additional +5 and a crit. Coming in at Vanguard for 15k. And again, without that intercepting, it's going to require me to force hand resources out to guard that. I am going to take it. No defensive trigger checks. We did want to see the defensive trigger check in this instance. Unfortunately, we're just not as lucky to see that. But he's going to swing Blangdmire next. It's going to be binding 4, and it's going to require me to get rid of 2 off of my field there. He's going to counterblast one of the triggers there. That's going to give him an additional plus. I believe currently he's sitting at plus 10, 5 for every 2. So that's going to be 23 with a 15k boost, 38 at the Vanguard there. We're going to PG that. And we'll pitch the grade 3 Searcher for the cost of the PG there. And with that, his 2 checks. First check, OT. He sees the OT. First grade 3 turn, he definitely wants to see that. Absolutely insane. It's going to give his Vanguard a permanent +10 and a crit for the remainder of this game. It's going to apply some pretty hefty pressure, especially when he gets into his Nexus turn there. If he gets into his hand, he's able to ride into that next turn there. Going in with the Zamoog column there. He doesn't have the energy, so it is only going to be the 100 million, no additional crit. But he's going to resolve the grade 1 boosting skill to put a card from the drop into the soul there. And we are going to take that for 5 total damage to his 3. A little unfortunate in the way that we guarded that out, but that's all right, because we're going to come back with a Persona Ride. We'll go up to 6 energy there, plus 10 to the front row with the Persona Ride. And we still have the base Overlord in the Soul. That's going to give us the plus 5 permanent during our turn with the no loss of drive checks. We're going to call out the Burning Horn next. And we're really looking for another copy of Persona Ride here to make sure that if he does do Divine Skill next turn, we have a way around it. We're going to get the base Overlord instead. And like everyone always says, deck thinning is deck winning, so we definitely want to see that. And with that, we're going to call out another copy of Bellicosity here. We'll use his skill, Energy Blasting the 3 there. We'll put that second copy of base Overlord into the Soul to draw 2. And we're going to activate Drag Resonance. We're going to give that plus 10 to the front row on restand there. We're looking at a pretty sizable hand. Definitely trying to be as defensive as possible, depending on if we're able to push for game this turn or not. We're going to swing Vanguard first. It's going to be 28 at the Vanguard there, plus 5s to the Bellicosity and the Burning Horn. He's not going to guard that one there. So 2 checks. First, nothing. And second, PG. Unfortunate. We really don't want to see that. Heal trigger for the first defensive check there. No heal, unfortunately, for Chandler, but he does get the defensive 10k. We're going to offset that with the Drag Resonance there on the restand. So counterblasting and then having to pitch. I don't believe we have the Halb in hand, but given that we just checked that PG there, I kind of want to get rid of it to make sure that we don't have any useless cards in hand during Chandler's turn if he decides to Divine Skill next turn. We pitched 2 PGs for the cost of the end there to restand. That's going to be a plus 10 to the front row. He's going to be swinging in for 38 into a perfect guard. He's going to pitch the Nexus for the cost of the PG there. First check's nothing, and second check, nothing once again. No offensive checks this turn at all. Absolutely not a good sign for a push turn whatsoever. That Bellicosity is going to swing in for 40k against Chandler's 23 at the moment. He's going to overguard that with the 2 crits. And then we're going to swing in with the Burning Horn there. That's going to be 48 for 1 damage there. He does check it there into a Tiskar, and that will be the end of my second grade 3 turn there. Tied up 5-5. Not a super ideal turn there with no trigger checking whatsoever. Really unfortunate. And he is going to Persona Ride. He's going to Persona Ride into Blangdmire Nexus. That's going to give him the plus 10 for the Persona Ride to the front row there. In addition, he still has the effect from the over trigger from that previous turn there. So that's going to give him the extra 10 and a crit during this turn there. So already off the bat, plus 20 with the crit. And if he decides to do the ability of Blangdmire Nexus there to bind from the soul, he could very well do bind the grade 3, but he would lose the inherent of the divine skill. He would be able to do that during the attack phase there. But he binds the 4, that'll put him up to 8 or 9, I believe, at this moment. I believe he has 9. It depends on if he decides to call something off of the second half of that second skill for Blangdmire. He can call something from the bind zone, or he can just draw the additional card. But I believe either way, it'll put him up to either 8 or 9 in the bind zone at the moment, and that gives him plus 20, depending on what that number looks like. I believe he's at 9, even with the call. He's going to call out the Vade Rock, and the Vade Rock there, I'll give him the opportunity to call out something from the soul. He'll be able to call out, and I believe he has a copy of Zamug in the soul from an earlier soul charge, so he'll be able to call that. He's going to do Vade Rock skill now. And he is going to call this Zamug, so that's going to be a very deadly column going into the battle phase once he gets into that there. With the amount of cards he has in the bind zone, plus power bonuses from everything else. And then with the Zamug, he also sees the 2 cards there. He sees the Bracing Angel as well as the Gear Colossus once again. He's going to get another 2 draws like last turn there. 2 to the soul with the Gear Colossus, draw a card, Gear Colossus bind, draw another card. Absolutely insane methods for maintaining hand advantage. So I really think he's hoping that if he pushes this turn, it's going to be the end game here, with no real recourse for me coming back in any way, shape, or form. Even if I do, he has a pretty sizable hand to stave that off. So with Nexus' skill having been activated already during the main phase, he got that plus 20k for the 8, I believe it's 8 or 9 at the moment. I think it's 9 he has right now, so that's going to be plus 20, plus 5 for each 2. And then plus 10 from the crit there, so that's 30 with the crit from the OT there, and then the Persona Ride. So he's sitting at a comfortable plus 40. So I believe right now that's going to be a 40, 53 with the 15k boost, 68. With no additional power bonuses, he's sitting at plus... He's sitting at a total of 68k on that Vanguard column there. And he has that one open counterblast. So he'll be able to utilize that booster there to restand if he decides to. He's going to call over the grade 1 promo there. He's going to call out another wizard, and that's going to let him check the top 2 for push 1 to the soul and then bottom deck the other. He's got the 1 there. It's going to go into the soul, and then the other will go to the bottom. There's not really much else he could do in this turn, given he's down to 1 counterblast. He's probably want to save that for the booster. And he's got a pretty ideal setup right now, as is. The right side column is a little underwhelming compared to the Vaderrock column, but he's still in a really good position to apply a lot of pressure this turn. So the Zmoog is going to swing in. It's currently 10. It's going to be 20k at my Vanguard there. I'm going to perfect guard that. It's going to get that PG out of the way. Get rid of a card that's going to be useless in a moment with the Divine Skill if he does decide to do that on this attack here. So counterblast from the boost to restand the Zmoog with power. And then he is going to Divine Skill. He's going to get that crit. I can no longer use Sentinels for the duration of the turn. And my Overlord is now Kaplitski'd to a no-skill, single drive Vanguard. But you got a really big brain the math here to make sure that we're able to guard everything. Because even though that right side of Zmoog isn't as much of a threat, it's the Vaderrock column that's going to be a pretty key threat. So we're going to guard the effect heal. That's going to be 38k total power at the moment. Get the crit. That's 53. Another crit, 68. And another crit, 83 to his 68. It's going to be 2 to pass. 2 to pass here. First check heal. He hits another heal. Absolutely insane. If he breaks through this, that's game over. That's 3 damage right off the rip. So first check, he gives the power to his Vanguard there. Second check, no offensive trigger. That saves us from game on the Vanguard swing right there. He did not break the 2 to pass. Absolutely insane. He's going to swing the Zmoog on the right there, the lower power one. So it's only coming in for 28. So we guard with the Foul Heart to get the extra draw. The math is going to be pretty critical at this stage right now. And it's going to come down. And we're going to overguard with the Parama there. And then he's going to swing in with these bigger Zmoog column with the Vaderrock boost. I believe that is 10, 20, 30. That's 40 with a crit plus the boost of 30. That's going to be 70k with a crit. That's going to be massive. We have to try and guard that. We're going to guard OT. That puts us up to 68. Or 63, sorry. That's 68 with the 5k and then 73. Saved by the skin of our teeth with the OT shield there. Holy moly. And the no break on the 2 to pass. Absolutely insane. But we break through Divine Skill with the Persona Ride. It's going to be absolutely insane comeback here. So we get our skills back. We still have the base Overlord and the Soul, so that's going to give us the +5 from the skill there, and then we put the power from the 10k there from the Persona ride. So we're sitting at a comfy 28 at the moment. And we call out the Bertrand. We're going to use Bertrand's skill, soul blasting one of the two base Overlords in the Soul there to search for the order card. And we set out the order. No real utility, I don't think, here. We really thinned out our hand a lot that last turn there, so it's just another way to deck thin. And again, like I said earlier, deck thinning is always deck winning. We never want to miss out on opportunity to gain advantage if possible. So it's going to be 28 for the first swing. So he pitches, I believe that's the Tiskar there for the PG. We're really trying to figure out what our ratios are. I didn't see what that was there. Read the pitch. We're just trying to make sure we get our ratios right here. So first check, Halb, second check, front trigger. So we're gonna get that 10k to the front row there. Nice little power bonus for that next swing. We counterblast. We have the Halb now, so we can pitch the Halb, and that'll give us at least a booster for one or the other. We had two Halb in hand still from that previous turn, and since we pitched both, they're both gonna come back out. I double checked that earlier. The Halb skill, it may be referred to as 2 when discarding for Overlord's ability, but since we didn't count it for that, we pitched 2 for the cost of Overlord, and they both come back out with +5, so that gives us a nice hefty boost. It's going to be 38, 43, 51. So we can get 51 at Chandler's Vanguard of 13 at the moment. So he's going to guard. It's going to be 28, 43, 58, 63. It's going to be 2 to pass. He's putting us up for the 2 to pass to pay us back the favor from last turn. I'm not sure if he's going to guard with more. I believe that's it there. So he's going to leave it with the 2 to pass. The first check, heal trigger. All effects to the Vanguard. We're going to risk it for the biscuit on our last Vanguard swing, probably this game. And the second check is a critical trigger for the 2 to pass breakthrough. It's going to come down to what Chandler sees for his defensive checks. First check, no trigger. Second check, no trigger for 6 damage for game. Thanks again for watching, guys. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below, like I said earlier, and I'll be seeing you guys in the next video.